All right, I think we're live. I think we did it.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know why I'm looking. I mean, I'm not that. You're taller than I am. Why do I look so much?
Not sure.
Okay. Also, the camera is just ever so slightly. Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. So we're joined. Yeah, we're live again. This is, I don't know, the 7,000th live stream this afternoon or this morning. We're in Spain, although we've had a change of venue, not literally venue, but change of location, because before we were right in the hallway, and then the last session broke out. There's a bit of a pause in between sessions, so now we're in a dungeon, deep beneath the castle somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, I'm joined. And I know you've got other things you should be worrying about today, so I'm really grateful that you're here. Moritz Halbritter. Forgive me if I butchered any part of that name.
It's totally fine.
You're on the Spring Boot team,
yes,
right?
Right.
One of my favorite people on one of my favorite projects. So, but you're a fairly new addition.
Yep.
When did you join?
I joined in February last year, actually.
2022.
2022. Right.
And I've been watching from afar and just watching you kick, the llamas. Just been amazing. Like I saw a lot of stuff you did for the Graalvm native image stuff, and now I saw the connection detail stuff. It just seemed to be everywhere. Really, really cool stuff. So tell me about yourself. First of all, where did you come from in terms of like software? Like what's your journey to the Spring team?
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
So I'm from Germany, like you maybe guessed from my last name.
Which part?
From southern Germany. So it's
Bavaria.
Now I'm living in Ingolstadt, which is near Munich, so in Bavaria.
Yeah.
So I studied in Munich.
Yeah.
I studied computer science, and then I worked for an IT consultancy in Munich for different big customers, and I was always using Spring Boot. So I started using Spring Boot with 1.4 or something like this.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I remember.
For people in the audience, remember 2.0 came out in 2017. So 1.4 wasn't even the end of that line, and that was a couple years before that.
Yeah.
Long time.
I did my master thesis with Drop Wizard. I'm not sure if you know.
Of course.
They're still around.
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's Coda Hale, the person who created it.
Right.
He said that had Spring Boot existed when he created it, he wouldn't have created it.
Yeah, right.
They're very, and we owe a lot. We had Drop Wizard metrics. People in the audience might know that.
Yep.
We had Drop Wizard metrics in the first version of Spring Boot.
Yep.
Instead of Micrometer. They've definitely changed the world.
Yeah, Drop Wizard was really cool because you don't need an application server, just run the main method and everything starts up like you now.
Embedded Jetty and everything.
Yeah, right. Like you now are with Spring Boot. But at this time, I remember Spring Boot came out.
Right.
Okay. So then I worked for 10 years for this company. Did a lot of different projects for different customers, but all with mostly Spring technology.
Right.
One time I actually worked with Micronaut.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the job offering from VMware for Spring Native.
Nice.
And then I thought, I would love to work for open source, and I would love to work on the Spring Native stuff because I played a little bit around with the Graalvm native image, and then I submitted my application. And then the whole process starts kicking off, and then I talked to Sebastian Deleuze.
The one, the only.
Doing talk tomorrow with him.
Oh, that's what you're doing tomorrow. Here, so okay, you and Sebastian. He was the lead of the Spring Native effort.
Yeah, right.
Oh, cool. You got to work with him directly. Like, he's one of the smart ones.
And
he's one of the good ones.
He did all the process of joining the team, and then I did some tests if I would be suitable for that role, and then I got the offering, and then I really happy to join.
Right.
And then I joined in February, and at that time we decided that the Spring Native team, which was experimental, would be integrated into Spring the framework and Spring Boot and all the portfolio projects.
Right.
And so the job description was for Spring Native, and then I started, and then they said me, there's no Spring Native team anymore. You're now in the Spring Boot team, and I would say,
yes,
Spring Boot team
Spring's awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Great, and that's how I joined the Spring Boot team.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've certainly earned your keep, but that's a bit of a jump. You were lucky, but you've done a great job, right? Like, Spring Boot team is like, what's the non-military equivalent of like the SEAL team or the whatever, the Marine Corps? They're doing some of the coolest stuff out there right now. So great, but now thanks to you, they've been able to do some of the cool stuff way faster, right? It's just been phenomenal. I've been following your work and your contributions and all that for the last whatever year,
Yep.
I guess, year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just you're everywhere. I just see your commits all the time. I know, really, it's just
Yeah.
phenomenal, you know.
So the first thing I started working with in the Spring Boot team for the Spring Native stuff,
Right.
because they needed someone who would volunteer to do all the native work. So not all the native work, but
Right.
major contribution to the native work. And as I was recruited for Spring Native, I mean, I then volunteered to do the native stuff.
Right. Yeah, very cool. So 1 second, friends. Hold on 1 second. We're going to change the venue again. Hold on, people. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, sorry about that. We had to change venue. We were chased out of a conference room here in beautiful Barcelona in Spring IO. Okay, so you were working on the Spring team, Spring Boot team. Go on.
Right. And then I did a lot of the native stuff. So getting Spring Boot 3 ready for native, and then we created the smoke tests, which are the tests which make sure that all the native stuff is working. For example, Flyway and the Postgres connector and all the stuff.
Wait, so the Flyway stuff was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
Wow, what was that like?
Yeah, the Flyway stuff. The main problem with Flyway is that it discovers resources while running. So you put your migration files, like the version 1 and version 2 and version 3 of your SQL files into the resources folder, and then you need to enumerate them at runtime. And this stuff is not supported on GraalVM.
No, so you had to like discover. And I remember working with the Spring Framework team and the Spring Boot team, because I had a similar thing with GraphQL. You have to discover schema.
GraphQL is exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
Because you just drop schema files in there and then they were discovered at runtime. Yeah.
And I was looking for some sort of like,
Yep.
we couldn't enumerate the file system.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I was looking for it. It turned into this whole wild thread with Jürgen and a bunch of other huge people like dropping in to see if we could find a way. And I think that there's actually even back and forth with the GraalVM team. Speaking of whom, hi, Alina.
Hey, Alina's there.
Yeah. Look at that. Oh, that's so cool. Welcome back, she says. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be back. We were just chased out of a room by people that had probably had the right to be there before we did. So we were just trying to find a quiet place to have a live stream. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that was how'd you solve it? Like, what was it? Was it the same thing that fixed my GraphQL problem after like 8 months?
Yeah. So I poked a little bit around in the GraalVM source code, and I discovered that they have you can't
file system kind of thing?
You can't enumerate it with the class bus prefixes, but there is another resource provider which you essentially can use to enumerate that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I built a small POC for that thing, and then I think Sam Brennan from Framework team incorporated that into the resource scanning stuff.
That was after talking to me. For the GraphQL thing.
Yeah, it could be.
So that spurned. I remember this. Okay, so that was it. That was the thread. Sam was critical. Actually, it was supposed to be because I started from the GraphQL perspective. So I started talking to Brian, but he was on PTO at some point. I'm like, I really need this guy. This has to get fixed. It doesn't look like it's gonna get fixed in time. We need to like look at this now because it's gonna break otherwise.
Yeah.
Sam took over, and then you, I guess, and Jürgen and a few others. Just what a bug! What a weird, interesting bug. It was.
And that took quite a long time to get Flyway working.
So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well that's you. That was amazing. So I helped Matt Rabel. We spent several days a year ago trying to make Spring Native and JHipster work, right?
Yeah.
And one of the big sticking points was this flyway stuff.
I think it never worked in Spring Native, right?
I don't know. It never.
Yeah.
But I know now JHipster is most of the way there. I haven't tried it because I don't really use JHipster that much. But it was just flyway was one of those things where like, okay, just comment it out, just move on. If we can get an app running, it's hard. Software is fun. GraalVM fun, but also, there's work to be done, and you need somebody like him to at these very low level framework levels. Somebody has to be a little bit smarter than I am to figure this stuff out. But now, thanks to him, people can just build on GraalVM and it just works.
Yeah, the flyway stuff, it was really important for me because I knew that flyway isn't very, very much projects involved. So it was very important for me to get it stuff going. Right.
Yeah. That was a fun one. Okay. So you worked on the GraalVM stuff, which is, again, the results speak for themselves. It's everywhere now, right? It's such a great result. You and the GraalVM team and Sebastian Deleuze, about whom we spoke earlier, and obviously Alina and Thomas and all these other.
Yeah, we have a really great collaboration with the GraalVM team. So we have weekly meetings and talk about stuff. It's really, really, really nice. You really see the whole software stuff working together.
I've been trying. So I did a presentation with Alina. We were just at DevOps UK a minute ago or whatever, and we did a presentation introducing Spring and GraalVM, right? And it was one of those things where we start like here's how to color in the lines, and then by the end of it you're painting a Van Gogh, right? Like it was very much like here's the basics, and then here's also now by the end of it we're doing code generation with the Java Poet.
Cool.
The AOT processor, the AOT contributions, and all this kind of stuff. Like that API to me. Can you talk about it? Are there any, somebody asked me about, is there some way to do open API generation?
Oh, yeah.
At compile time.
Build time.
And you could totally do that.
You can totally do that.
Right?
So Stefan, who led the work on the IoT engine in the framework, did a Hercules effort to get all the IoT transformations running. And this essentially features a plug-in system. So you can plug into the IoT transformation engine. When you're building, it bootstraps your context up to a certain point.
Right.
And in this contribution, you can generate code, which then gets compiled and then fed into the native image compiler.
Even the simple explanation for this is a little hard if you're not really very familiar with Spring. But basically, there's a bean factory. When Spring starts up, it reads the data from your XML. Don't do that. Your component scanning, your hack configuration, the annotations, all that turns into a bunch of bean definitions.
Yeah, right.
And normally in a regular Spring app on the JVM without GraalVM, we go one step further beyond that. We initialize all those bean definitions and turn them into beans, actual objects, right? But you're saying at compile time, we just stop at bean definitions. Right. And so we don't actually have any live fire sockets or anything like that. Right.
So the bean definition is essentially just a blueprint how to get that bean.
That's a great way to say it.
And we don't create the stuff of the blueprint. We just go to the blueprint phase. We now know all the blueprints. We stop there, and then we generate code to create those the objects which the blueprint would have created.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay,
that's how it works.
The engine. That engine also, to make that work though, to have that component model, we also made it so that there's a couple of interfaces that live and run at this compile time phase.
Right.
So there's a bean factory initialization AOT processor, and there's a bean definition registry AOT processors, and the bean definition, I don't know, is it BDR or BD?
There are two of those.
There's two of those, and you can register them as just regular beans with static methods, like bean factory post processors, whatever. But they run only at compile time. So if they live in they're probably still in the code at runtime, but they don't get it used or run or whatever, I guess.
Right. And it should be theoretically possible at that when this thing is running to get your open API specification, write it out to a file, register a resource hint for that thing, and then it is in your native image, and then you can just...
and it could get validation because the code will not compile if you wanted, if you wrote Java code, right? You could do all sorts of really cool things on that level. So what are people ask, well, what about this use case or what about that? And my answer has been, look, we wanted to make it so that we had the nicest, cleanest component model for doing these sorts of things. And we wanted to make sure that it was, comprehensive enough to support the incredibly dynamic use cases that Spring supports and has supported in 20. We're celebrating 20 years today.
Mhm.
And it's not exactly today, but 20 years of spring, right? Like,
And 10 years of Spring Boot, yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, since the R&D started, right?
Yep.
1 April
Yep.
2014 was the first release.
Yep.
But the general, like, here's a Spring Boot release. We had 2013. People could download and use 0.04, whatever it was. Like,
Yeah.
0.4, whatever. So yeah, 10 years of Spring Boot, 20 years of Spring, and that means that there's tens of millions of applications. How many billions of lines? I don't even know. It's just
Yep.
it's just it blows the mind to think about it. So there's a lot of things that we can't possibly foresee, and it would be a shame if the bottleneck for any new native support if it became the Spring team, right? We don't want that. So we have this really great component model.
Yep.
And I think it's great. It's easy enough to approach if you really wanted to get into that kind of stuff. It's also flexible enough to support a lot of dynamic use cases, and we know because we made Spring Boot work here, right? But what about Open API? What about what are some of the other use cases that might be that we might see supported here?
You mean the third-party stuff?
Or from us, like what could we be doing? What are we going to do anything with this compile time sort of support?
Yeah, we do actually quite a lot. For example, the Hibernate stuff got AOT handling for that because Hibernate does a lot of runtime reflection and runtime source code, bytecode generation and stuff like this. And there are AOT contributions, for example, to register all your entities onto the Hibernate entity factory while build time. And then this gets written out into code.
Wait, so you're saying Hibernate doesn't do component scanning anymore? When it doesn't look for entities?
If you use AOT, I think there is code which is generated which finds those entities in while building and then re-registers them via source code.
So what you're doing is at compile time, you're writing out Java code.
Yeah, right.
Which programmatically tells Hibernate's session factory about these new entity classes. So that it doesn't have to find by doing class path scanning and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Or say, for example, people complain all the time that we do runtime dependency injection via reflection.
Nope.
But if you enable the IoT stuff, it's gone.
Functional.
So what we do is essentially we find out what is injected in what, and then we write source code for it, even with JavaDoc. So there's JavaDoc on the source code, which is quite funny.
That's amazing.
And this is then compiled into the Java bytecode and then fed into the native image.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could just run it on AOT mode. That's the other thing I think I should do a better job of telling people, but it's a thing. You could just take the output of all that AOT stuff and just run it on the JVM. And there's a little bit of a benefit there. It's not like huge compared to like GraalVM, but it's good enough.
A little bit.
It's definitely nice,
We improved the documentation in Spring Boot 3.1 for exactly that use case.
Yeah.
So you can find it now in the documentation how to enable the IoT part.
It was always there. It just we just don't.
We never promoted it that far. Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned it a few times, but the thing is, like, it's just sort of there's so much stuff in 3.0.
Yeah.
I never really had a chance to go through the documentation with the audience,
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really amazing thing as well. People don't realize that. And if you can get it to run in AOT mode, you're pretty close to getting it to work in GraalVM too.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily always there,
Yeah.
but the dev experience is so close now. And GraalVM has gotten so much better, and Spring Boot has gotten so much better that now they're basically, they work well. They work really well.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. You're going to be you're in a live stream. Go that way.
What happened?
Go that way. You're in a live stream.
You're doing live stream, sorry.
Well, if you're on the internet, I hope you don't mind.
You're now on the internet forever.
Yeah. Sorry. Is it okay?
Hey, eyes are going to train on your face.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, there's all this like really amazing stuff in Spring Boot 3.0 and 3.x and whatever. 3.1
it's coming out today.
is out. It's out today. Well, I mean, it's hopefully soon. It'll be announced.
Soon it's there.
As far as I know, the intent is for it to be out today.
Yeah.
And that was on calendar.spring.io. So I'm not saying any company secrets or whatever. It's just a public URL.
Yep.
What should we be looking for? What are some of the exciting features for you?
There are 4 cool features, I think. So the first one is the auth authorization server.
Which is so cool.
Yeah, that's really nice. So the auth authorization server was a project originated from Spring Security, but what we got from the Spring Security team is a pull request for auto configuration for that stuff. So it now works out of the box. You just set some properties and you get your full-fledged authorization server without any hassle. And then you can do your all-out flow against it and get tokens and get authorization with it. That's quite nice. Then we worked on SSL bundles. SSL bundles are essentially a way to reuse certificates for different purposes. For example, setting the same certificate for your web server and for your Postgres database and for your maybe Cassandra connection.
Right.
Which is very useful if you got to work in a big company and they have some self-signed certificates. You just register them at one place instead of cluttering all your configuration with that stuff.
Right.
And you reference just a bundle and then it works.
And it just, so we used to have these duplicative, sometimes different properties.
Yeah.
Across these, like your database connections, your
Yeah.
message queue connections, your web, like you said, the embedded web server, and also the web clients. If I'm making a call to it, I might want to do mutual TLS or something like that.
And that wasn't consistent. So, for example, in some properties you could specify a PEM key file. In some properties you had to specify a Java key store, and then you will have to know all the intricate details of how to convert one stuff to another. And with the SSL bundle, it's now much more consistent. You can just say, here's my PEM file, please read that PEM file, and then it reads the PEM file, and you don't need to fiddle with this horrible key tool from Java.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That's a very cool feature.
And it's a quality of life thing, because Spring Boot is great because it's productive and it's production worthy. But there's still like these little, like that could be a thing that could easily cost you a day if you haven't. I'm ready to go to production. Is it using SSL?
Yeah, and then you go into all the certificate hell with PKCS8 and PKCS12, and there are a little bit of differences. And then you got to know such open SSL commands to convert that stuff into each other, and all that stuff is holding you back from delivering value for your business for what you get paid. Right. That's the main problem, and that is what Spring Boot is going to solve. It makes you more productive to deliver value for your business, so that they are happy and do not fire you.
Right. We love that. We love it when we don't get fired. So that's a huge feature. I saw you and Scott and a few others working on that as well. I love it.
The other ones are, of course, the test container stuff and the Docker Compose stuff.
Right.
And we usually name them in one breath because they are both based on the same abstraction inside Spring Boot, which is the connection details, right?
Yeah.
And the connection details is essentially the idea that it does not matter where the connection details are coming from, either from properties or from something else. And our other configurations are using them. And there are right now two ways which provide those connection details. The one is the Docker Compose stuff. So if you put a Docker Compose or a Compose YAML file in your Spring Boot application root and you start it and there are services defined, then we find out if you're, for example, starting a Postgres image, it runs Docker Compose up, then the Postgres is ready, and then we automatically create a connection detail for that in Docker Compose running Postgres, and then the Postgres auto configuration automatically configures the database connection pool so that when you execute a query, it actually ends up in the Postgres running in Docker Compose. And this is really cool because you don't need to read readmes how to get all that stuff started. You don't need to even run Docker Compose up because Boot now knows there's a Compose YAML. Yeah, that's a signal for us to run that for you and wire it all together. So you don't need to remember all the properties. You don't need to look up how to construct this JDBC URL, which is different for every database. It just works. And the other source for connection details are test containers. I guess if you're doing integration testing, you're using test containers. You use it normally to run the Postgres database or something else. And now if Spring Boot detects that there is a Postgres container, it automatically creates a connection detail for it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that stuff. I mean, this is like really, really powerful. And also, I kind of think there's a unique opportunity here, right? Spring Boot 3.1 is that horse is left the stable, obviously. But now there's all these like passwordless, cloud services, things like that, where they don't have a property you can use. There's no Spring data source password to be configured in the first place, right? It's just entirely based on machine image identity and things like that.
Yeah, right.
This is,
So the connection detail essentially creates an abstraction where we can now build stuff on. So you could imagine if you run it in a Kubernetes environment, and we know there is a Postgres database running in the Kubernetes, why should the developer create Kubernetes secrets injected into config maps and stuff like this?
Just resolve it.
Yeah, just resolve it. Spring Boot knows there is a database. Please connect to it. And that's what you want.
And you can even point it to the secrets.
Yeah, right.
Like it's safer that way. There's less duplicative information. And if you rotate the secret, and then bump the Spring Boot app, guess what? Now we've just got the new stuff.
I mean, the connection
even better.
detail, the connection detail thing could even go to, for example, a vault server, get a
Right.
temporary password, and then wire it up into
Right.
your PostScript database.
That indirection is super valuable.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Big deal.
So you made a joke about the 3 authors on the
I
connection
love it.
details.
I know. I love it.
And that's one of the reasons because we thought very hard how to create those abstractions. Because if there is an abstraction in place, people start bidding against it because this is not an internal API.
Right.
You could, if you want, create your own connection details factory, which creates those connection details for whatever. And
Right.
then it starts working. All the other configuration stuff starts working. You don't need to remember property names, which can change. Just
Sure.
implement this interface.
Right.
And if we ever change it, you get a compiler error, which is much better than finding out, oh no, the property has
The
changed and my
stringy
production is down and I get fired.
I love this. Gabriel, hello. I'm here with Moritz Halbritter. We're in Barcelona, Spain at Spring I/O, live at Spring I/O, and I'm just glad people are here. We're talking about Spring Boot 3.1, which is dropping today, soon,
Today.
any hour now,
Yeah,
any minute.
yeah.
Maybe it's already out. We don't know. We've been talking for 30 minutes. It could well already be out the door. I don't know. You can check.
Let me check.
He's gonna check. It's gonna be. Don't show them any secrets though. Any secretive secrets.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, not yet.
But-
Okay.
So this Spring Boot team is across different time zones, and
Yeah.
I guess my American colleagues are going to kickstart it.
Because a lot of us are here right now in Barcelona,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's okay.
We're
No.
busy attending talks, drinking coffee, talking
Yeah.
to each other, giving live streams.
Enjoying the sunshine.
Yeah.
Sunshine. I said sheen, like Charlie Sheen.
Charlie,
Yeah.
Charlie's on sheet.
Life is pretty good. My friend, this is good. Congratulations on an amazing Spring Boot release.
Thank you, Matt.
You did a great thing here. I'm super glad you're on the team. It's great to work with you.
Cool.
I can't wait to see what else you do. I just you're kicking a lot of ass out there.
I heard Project Loom is around the corner.
Oh, I've heard a thing or two. The keynote was pretty great, huh?
Yeah,
Today?
yeah.
Project Bloom, Crack.
Really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, Project Track is just kicking
wow.
ass.
Yeah, it's
That's
gonna be
really
awesome. Chat. This has been Moritz Halbritter, and I'm Josh. And have a great day. I think this might be the last live stream for the day. So we'll see you all tomorrow, live again from Spring I/O in Barcelona, Spain. Bye.
See you.